So today we're going to talk about a thing called the quadratic formula, okay? So topic is solving. I got to get a better pen. Hold on. Do I have a better pen around here? Probably not. Maybe. Every time I have a good pen, somebody finds it. Oh, this one might work. Solving x squared equations by the quadratic formula. Okay, so before we even start, you don't use it. The only time you use it is if you're solving, so it has an equal sign and it won't factor. Okay, so if you have an equal sign, great question. So we could try combinations, right, and see if it works. And I always try and factor first because it's easier. It really is easier. So if you're good at factoring, I always try factoring first. But if it doesn't factor, then we're going to have to try the quadratic form, okay? Let's just go ahead and try and do the quadratic form of this. So we see that it is the negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So these are numbers. And where the numbers come from, hold on, Ben. In this example, our a is 3. Our b is negative 5. And our c is negative 4, okay? So we're just going to take these numbers and plug them into the formula, not x's. I'll say it again. Do not put x's, just the numbers. So we're going to go and put a negative 5 right there. So we're going to go negative 5. So we're going to start plugging numbers into this formula. So we're going to go negative 5. So put my negative 5 right in for the negative b. Plus or minus big square root, just like the formula. B squared, so we're going to go negative 5 squared minus 4, because that's in the formula, times a, and a is 3, times c, and c is negative 4, all over 2 times a, which is 3. So our answers are there. Our answers are there. We've got two answers. We just have to tidy this up. But we have our two answers there. We just have to tidy it up. So to tidy up, first of all, I'll make that a positive 5, double negative, plus or minus the square root of a positive 25, because a negative 5 times negative 5, or negative 5 squared is positive, plus, it's going to be plus because I've got a negative times a negative. In fact, I'll highlight it so you don't miss it, but I've got that negative makes the positive, right? So we've got a negative 4 times 3 is negative 12, times another negative 4 is a 48. Okay, 12 times 4 is 48, all over 6.
Hold up. I got the 25, and then you want
Okay, then 4 times 3 times 4.
Wait, why is it 4 though?
4 is in the formula. 4 is in the formula. It's always in the formula, okay?
No, but...
And then A is 3.
Oh, okay.
And C is negative 4. Right, so there's two negatives, right? And that's why I highlighted the two negatives, right? So then, I'm going to have, am I going too fast?
No.
5 plus or minus the square root of 73, right? 73 all over 6. Now, if it doesn't factor, then quite often the numbers, the answers aren't very nice. Which makes sense. In the real world, think about it. Most parabolas, 99% of most parabolas don't always land with nice numbers. So we're going to have to use a calculator. Square root of 73. And let's round to the nearest tenth, okay? We'll round to the nearest tenth, so we'll round to the nearest tenth. And I do the nearest tenth because normally that's the best we can graph is to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to figure out what is the square root of 73. So on the side, both side work square root of 73 in my calculator. What is that? I don't know. I'm going to find out in a second, okay? Square root 73 is about 8.5, yeah. So it's about, oh, I'll show you real quickly. It's in blue. It's in blue. It's right there. So you push second, that button, okay? I'll do it again, Zoe. It's in blue. It's in blue.
Oh, I can't, okay.
Okay. So it's approximately 8.5. So let's go ahead and then change this square root of 73. We'll change it to really 8.5. We're going to get our two answers here in a second. So now we're going to have, I'll bring this up here, 5 plus or minus 8.5 over 6. Now there are two answers, right? There are always two answers. So one answer is going to be a 5 plus an 8.5 over 6 and 5 subtract 8.5 over 6. Okay? Now you have to be a little careful with your calculator. And I'm going to do it wrong first so you can see why it's wrong. Okay? With my calculator, watch me do it wrong. 5 plus 8.5 divided by 6. What am I doing wrong?
It's going to do the division first.
It's going to only divide the 8.5 by 6, right? That's all it's going to do. It's going to take this, divide it, and then add 5 to it. We do not want that. This is not my answer. So there's two ways to do it. One is with parentheses. You can go, okay, 5 plus 8.5 divided by 6. That is the correct answer. Or you can do it in two steps. Or you can say, okay, well, 5 plus 8.5, get an answer and divide it by 6. Either way, that is correct. Okay, so one answer is 2.5. Circle it, okay? The other answer, thank you. Thank you. So the other answer is just the 5 subtract 8.5, enter, divided by 6, negative 0.58. We'll go to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so it's not hard.
What were we solving for?
Great. So we found the x values that will make this 0. We also found, if we were to graph it, we found the x-intercepts, right? Right?
You can just trace it down, or you can do the actual order.
Right. Okay, so now, example 2, we're going to do the same thing. Let's give it a try, okay? So it says graph. So if we're going to graph this, and I'm just going to do a rough graph of it. Real rough. I don't need to have it be perfect. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I do know right off the bat I'm going to have a value right there, don't I?
Yeah.
I have a y-intercept of negative 4. Everybody agree with that? So great question, Landon. So what are these numbers? These numbers are here and about here. That's what those numbers are. We found the x-intercepts, didn't we? The only thing I don't know is the vertex, but I know how to find the vertex, don't I? To find the vertex, we're going to use our negative b over 2a. Am I going too fast? Okay. So I've got these two are my x-intercepts. I got those by using the quadratic formula. I know the negative 4 is my y-intercept. I don't know my vertex, so I'm going to use my negative b over 2a. So I'm going to go my negative 5 over 2 times 3, which makes 5, 6. So my vertex is going to be 5, 6, and probably as a decimal. You guys like the decimal better, 5, 6, or about 0.83. Something. How do I get the something? Plug it in, right? So let's let my calculator do the plugging in. So I'll let my calculator do the plugging in. I'm going to go 3, plug it in, 0.83 quantity squared minus 5 times 0.83, subtract 4. Yeah, that's the x value of the vertex. So I get a negative 6.08. So I could go and have a 0.83, 6.08 is down here, and then I can just connect my dots. So, Lana, I'm going to go back and answer your question. What do we find? What are these numbers? Well, they turned out to be the zeros. On a graph, they're the x-intercepts, okay? Now, they aren't very nice numbers, are they? And sometimes we have to use a quadratic formula because, again, 99.9% of parabolas don't have nice answers. So 99.9% of the time we have to use the quadratic formula, okay? We really do. Okay, you guys ready to turn the page, or am I going too fast? Okay, turn the page. Okay, all right, here. Now, again, most applications don't have nice numbers. Okay, so this is gravity. This number here is a true number. This is gravity in meters per second squared. Have you learned that in science yet? Negative 9.8. Okay, this is a real number. This is like Sir Isaac Newton number. This is a Galileo number. This is a true number in science. Okay, so this is gravity on Earth in terms of meters squared. Okay, so a rock is thrown in the air with an initial velocity of 24. Here's your 24. And a starting height of 2 meters. So it's basically a 6-foot man taking a rock and throwing it up in the air. Okay? So the question is, find the highest height, the time of that height, and when it hits the ground. Okay, so let's just draw a picture. So if I drew a picture, it would look something like this. Something. Height, time. Okay? Height and time. So you throw it in the air, you count 1001, 1002, plop, it hits the ground, right? So time is moving as it goes up and down, correct? Time is moving as it goes up and down, right? So, if we want to find the highest height, that would be right there, which would be the vertex. And we know how to find the vertex, right? We're going to use t equals negative b over 2a, right? So we're going to plug in negative b and 2a. So t is equal to, in this case, negative 24 divided by 2 times negative 9.8. Okay? And again, a real life problem. You're not going to get nice numbers. The numbers are just going to be a little bit messy, but hey, so what, right? That's the way it is. So I'm going to go a negative 24 divided by parentheses 2 times a negative 9.8, and I get an answer of about 1.12, about 1.2, we'll say approximately 1.2 seconds. So, take the rock, chuck it in the air, 1001, 1.2 seconds at its highest height, and then it starts to come down. It makes sense, right? Because you're throwing a rock, it's not going to be up there that long. We're talking seconds, right? What is that highest height? Well, to get the highest height, let's plug it in. Yep, plug it in, right? Plug it in. Okay, so we're going to let the calculator do the work, though. H of 1.2 is equal to negative 9.8 times a 1.2 squared plus a 24 times a 1.2 plus 2. And I'm going to let the calculator crunch the numbers, right? Well, I'm not going to do it. Yeah, I mean, they're ugly numbers, right? 1.2 squared plus 24 times 1.2 plus 2. And we get about 16.7 meters, okay? Height is about 16.7 meters. So all of these answers actually make sense. Meters about a yard. I mean, I'm sure you guys could probably throw a rock, 17 yards in the air. I'm sure you could, right? Check it up there. Most of you guys could, right?
You have to.
Okay. Now, how about when it hits the ground? Okay. So, let me ask you an easy question. Yes. Totally right. Yes. So, easy question. Easy question. When it hits the ground, what's its height? 0. So set the height equal to 0, right? So if we want to know when it hits the ground, so when it hits ground, h of x is equal to 0. So we'll go 0 equals negative 9.8 t squared plus 24t plus 2. Now, does it factor?
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. So what do you do if it doesn't factor? We have to use this. It will not factor. Okay?
You did this on purpose.
Yes. I always do, don't I? So when it does, occasionally I make a mistake, but most of the time I know what I'm doing. So if it doesn't factor, the only way we can do it is with quadratic formula. And again, 99.9% of our quadratics will not factor. Almost every problem that's a real problem has to be done with the quadratic formula. So, what's the quadratic formula? Well, it is our negative b plus minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. In fact, it's on the board because we use it a lot, and it's going to stay on the board, okay? So, negative b, I get a negative 24 plus or minus square root b squared, which is going to be a 24 squared minus a 4 times an a, which is a negative 9.8 times c, which is 2, all over 2a, which is 2 times a negative 9.8. Now, I'm going to let my calculator do as much of the work as I possibly can, right? Right? Because, I mean, that's a pretty ugly numbers, but I can put most of this in my calculator in one step. Okay, in one step, I can put most of this in my calculator. I'll wait until you're ready to see it, okay? Okay, I'll wait until you're ready to see it, and I'll put it in my calculator, okay?
We're ready.
Okay, here we go. If I put this in my calculator, so what I'm going to do is put, first of all of this in my calculator, okay? I'm going to put all of that in my calculator, so see how I do it. I'm going to go square root, okay? I'm going to go 24 squared.
Wait, no, hold on.
I'm going to put all of this in my calculator.
Parentheses?
Parentheses automatically pop into it. Oh, yeah, I could do a double parentheses. Okay, hold on. Square root,
Smart.
parentheses.
Oh, wait. You messed
24.
up to the wrong side.
Keep going.
You can just put a...
No, let me keep going, please. Minus 4 times negative 9.8 times 2. Close the parentheses. Now, you ready, Zoe? Okay, watch. And I'll highlight it. Okay? This parentheses are those, okay?
Yeah.
This parentheses is to make sure the whole thing is in the square root. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Nikolai, does that make sense now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. And in this case, I wouldn't really need these parentheses because 24 squared, I wouldn't really need it, right? Okay. Anyway, enter. So all of this becomes a 25.58, right? So let's just go straight to, all right, negative 24 plus or minus a 25.58, because all of this just became a 25.58, right? Let the calculator do the work, right? All over, well, 2 times a negative 9.8 is a negative 19.6. Okay, so I'm going to let my calculator do as much work as I possibly can let it do, right? Okay, now, we're going to finish it up with our calculus. So I'm going to do it as a, you ready? Negative 24 plus 25.58, enter, divided by negative 19.6, enter. Here's one answer. There's one answer. There's one answer, okay?
Why is that only one answer? Because there's two. Oh, did we do the subtraction this time?
No, I did the plus this time.
Oh,
Now, I'm going to throw that first answer away.
what?
I'm going to throw this first answer away. This answer is going to be thrown away. Come on, think.
It's negative.
Gotta go the back way.
Yeah, you can't have negative time, can you? So throw this one away, right? Can't have negative time. So t equals negative 0.08.
So now we'll try negative.
Yes. Negative 24 minus 25.58 divided by negative 9.8 gives me a positive 5.06.
Well, then your house.
Then something went wrong, Landon.
Or maybe you're
Then
not
something
even
went wrong, right?
calculation. Maybe you're like lucky.
Yeah, that could be true. Okay, so you've already got your homework sheet, right? And I need to stop recording.